Hi, I'm Crystal Farmer Seagar, pronoun she, her, hers, and you are watching Voices of Liberation. Today I have special guest Chelsea, owner of Baked by the Hoods. Introduce yourself and tell us a little about your business.
Yeah, my name is Chelsea Hood. I own Baked by the Hoods. It's a local baking company. I started it last year, 2020, in the pandemic. Just seeing everyone kind of like hustling and doing side hustles, I figured I could do that too. So I started it, and I've been doing local deliveries and pickups in the Santa Barbara area, and it's really taken off since then. So yeah.
It looks great. We have these. Explain what we have here a little bit. What is this?
Yeah, so these are vanilla bean cupcakes, and then I have a Oreo buttercream, so it's just a classic buttercream, and then to kind of make it, a little original and special, I added Oreos within the buttercream, and then for decoration, just little mini Oreos on top to make it look cute.
It looks delicious, and I cannot wait to taste one. So in these episodes, we like to break bread together because we know that it's so communal in the Black community. And today, our episode is about mothering, featuring one of my very dear friends, Chiani Dree. And we have our daughters here, so I'm gonna welcome them all to come on and walk on and decorate your cupcakes.
Hi, you guys. Okay, so who wants to go first in decorating a cupcake? You do? Okay, perfect. So we are gonna make this cupcake right here. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna make a little swirl with the buttercream, and then we're gonna add these little Oreos on top for decoration, okay? You think you can do that? All right, so I'm gonna put that close to you. So I'm gonna have you hold it like right here. So what you wanna do is you're gonna squeeze down first. You're gonna squeeze in the middle, and then you're gonna make a little swirl, okay? I can kind of, here, ready? So squeeze, and then we're gonna swirl. Hey, okay. And then to top it off, you wanna go ahead and grab your little Oreos. Perfect. There you go. And then you have some extra to eat too. All right, and did you see her do that? Okay, I'll help you too. Okay, so just like Juniper did, so what you're gonna do is you're gonna hold the bag like right here, right in the middle, and you're gonna squeeze down and start from right in the center, gonna squeeze down, and then let's go around in a swirl. Yeah, perfect. Do you like it? Okay, and then now you're gonna grab your little mini Oreos, and we're gonna top it off just like those ones. Yeah, or I mean, there's extra in there if you want to use them for eating or put them on your cupcake, whichever you like. Yeah, do 3. I mean, 4 is my lucky number if you want to do 4 too. There you go. So, do you guys want to try it? Want to take a bite? Okay. Tell me what you think. Tell me if you guys think the frosting tastes like Oreos, because it has a lot of fresh Oreos in there. Yeah.
Is that good?
You like it?
Can I have a bite?
Really?
Y'all see how my daughter do me? What?
You like it, Juniper?
Oh, that is like, it almost tastes like there's Oreo in the cake too.
I think it's just like, when it's incorporated into the buttercream, and then like you really get a full bite of just the buttercream and vanilla cake. You just get it all in one, I try to make sure all my desserts are like, when you bite them, you really want to get the full bite of everything, so then get the full taste.
And how can people get in touch with you? How can they hire you? Like, what's your contact information?
Yeah, so right now you guys can contact me through bakedbythehoods.com. So that's my website. So I have everything on there. I have my Instagram linked. I have a contact us button, which it just goes straight to Chelsea at bakedbythehoods.com. I check my email periodically throughout the day, like every hour. So I'm always checking and responding to any inquiries or questions you guys have. So you can contact me through bakedbythehoods.com, and I will always answer.
Well, that's great. Y'all heard it here. Chelsea, Baked by the Hoods. How does it taste, Juniper? Good? You are going in, like no crumbs. No crumbs. How is it, Anaya? Well, thank you so much for bringing your cupcakes and being featured. We really believe in building up Black business, and we're so grateful that you're in this community offering
Thank you so
this.
much. I really appreciate that. Thank you for having me.
Of
And
course.
thank you guys for helping me.
Thanks for coming back. It was so lovely to have both of our kids making cupcakes. I know they've known each other since what, two and a half?
3, something like that. Yeah.
3.5 or no, 2.5, I think, or no, 3.
It was like 3 at the vigil that we put on for Philando Castile, and there was one other Black man who was murdered that year as well. Yeah, that was the first time I ever met you. And then you ended up being at Santa Barbara City College with me, so it was like, oh, hey. So, yeah.
Right, and now we're just like attached at the hip,
Yeah.
and it was so beautiful to see that moment come full circle and our daughters back together like that. Now 9, shooting on 2?
Yeah,
Yeah,
shooting
now
on 2.
9, so what, like 6 years?
It's been a long time. Yeah.
So that was nice, and shout out to Chelsea Hood for coming and baking cupcakes. We really appreciate you. Make sure you look for Baked by the Hoods. And they are local. She is local to SB, and she runs the business with her sister. So Chiani, you are sitting down with me. We are here to have this conversation, and I really want you to introduce yourself. Talk about, your soul work as well as your actual career, and who you are to this community.
Yeah, so I am an organizer, an activist, a mother. I'm the co-founder of Juneteenth Santa Barbara, an author. I don't know if I said that already. I'm like, what am I? I feel like I do so many things. I'm constantly repeating myself, but and I'm the director of diversity, equity, and inclusion at Planned Parenthood Los Angeles as well. So taking a lot of my passion work and doing it professionally, which is always nice to be able to do. So yeah, just someone who loves community, works for community, and is always trying to push for the greater good, I guess.
And you are. I mean, I tell you this all the time, but I don't know how you do everything you do, and you might not see it, and I know you don't see it because you often tell me, but you do it to perfection. Like, I do everything, and it's like half-ass, and you do everything, and you just do it, and you show up, and it's like great. So you said you were an author, but you also didn't mention that you ran for an elected position.
I did.
So
yes.
you can talk a little bit about that too.
Yeah, I mean, I ran for public office in 2020. I ran for school board in Ojai, which was an experience. It was a whole experience, okay? I'll just say for anyone out there who's wanting to run for office, school board is the most dramatic, with the most drama. Like, everything happens. It's a lot. But it was a really good experience for me, learning how to talk to people and really, be in community in a much different way, and show up for folks in a different way, and learn about all the intricacies of the school system, right? Like this institution that we're all engaged in one way or another, and really engaging community around really important issues. Some of the issues we were looking at were specific to like Spanish-speaking communities and undocumented folks, specifically in Ojai. That was a big, and it still is a big thing to think about and talk about. But also thinking about how we show up for students of color who make almost 50% of our school district there. So it was a really important thing for me to do as someone who had already been doing a lot of anti-racism work in that community, to really step up and be someone who was willing to walk the walk as well. So it was a good experience for me, definitely.
It was beautiful watching you like step up in that way and just take it on with all the many obstacles and barriers that came with it. Because I'm always like, I could never do that. And so it was amazing watching you show up, because you're a mother also of 3, and you have your own, story before you became a mother.
Absolutely.
That sort of leads you and guides you into doing this work. Can you talk a little bit about that story?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I had a really sort of unconventional childhood, and I spent a lot of my childhood in the foster care system and just the child welfare system in general, really bouncing around. People will be like, oh, where'd you grow up? I'm like, I don't want to talk. I don't even know where I grew up. I grew up everywhere. And I even aged out of the foster care system when I was 18. So I was really, really part of that world. And then I became a mom when I was 18. So I was a teen mom and navigated that for a really long time. And I mean, all of those experiences that I had, all the messaging I got about my worth, the things I wasn't going to be able to do, the things that weren't meant for me, I've always been someone who took those things that I'm going to show you. I can't. I don't know if it's that Aries energy, like that thing that makes me want to like push forward, do stuff all the time, but it was definitely for me, like, you know, a lot of people said, oh, you're never going to go to college. You're never going to be in a relationship or in a loving, caring relationship. You're never going to have these things that normal, you know, whatever the traditional way of doing things affords you. So I sort of set out on a path to prove everyone wrong. And that's where a lot of the community work came in too, because I really wanted to be who I needed when I was younger. Like I really wanted to be the kind of grown up or adult that foster care me needed, or that teen mom me needed. Like, you know, thinking about how does community come together to really uplift people and allow them to live in their purpose. And I really wanted to be someone who could do that for other people. And I think that's really been at the core of all of the community work I've done, because I've done a variety of different types of community work on a variety of different issues, but it's all interconnected. Like all oppression is connected, right? So it's like we work for one issue, we know it's helping address other issues in the community as well.
Right. And I think a lot of, just from what I know from your story, a lot of what not even catapulted, but kept you in community is that mothering aspect,
Absolutely.
right? Is one, not having it and then becoming it, and then realizing how essential it is to community work and community organizing. And I know we talk about this often as mothers, as two femmes that have been single mothers, and how society treats mothers and children. And what do you think, just in your professional opinion, really needs to change about how mothers are valued in these movements?
Oh, I think a lot of things. And we have had a lot of conversations, so you know I think a lot of things about this. I think one of the things I heard while I was a fellow for something called Mama's University, which was through Parenting for Liberation and Mothering Justice, two different organizations, someone said, you know, if you want to kill the society, you kill the mother. And I really felt that, because at the core of everything is motherhood, is caretaking, right? Caretaking in general, whether you're a mother or identify as sort of in a different space or a different identity, like caretaking is at the center of everything we do. We can't live in this society without caretakers, and yet we don't uplift, support, or provide any services for caretakers that really allow them to thrive, like not just survive, like basic survival, but to really thrive in the world and experience life wholly. So, you know, I even think about things like during the pandemic itself, the unemployment rate for Black women went up 1.5%. And that's because Black women take most of our service industry and our caretaking industries. And they were out of jobs during the pandemic because we were not prepared to lose those people. We were not prepared to support caretakers and service workers, right? So even thinking about how that shows up in policy and shows up in big moments like a major global pandemic. We don't live in societies that are ready to support caretakers, to support mothers, support people working in these jobs, either for profit and or not, you know. So all of those things to me are really intersected and interconnected in the ways in which we think about caretaking and its importance, for sure.
I'm just sitting with all that you said, because we live through it. We live through it every single day, and it is exhausting. It's infuriating. We talk about it often, and we've actually started so many support networks because of it. And that's just with our friends. That's just with local community organizers. It's with other mothers, and we're constantly having this conversation. And I want to talk a little bit about education, because I know we show up for our babies all the time.
Yeah.
And there's sort of been this shift of, I think, you can correct me if I'm wrong, it's not like charter schools, they're called co-ops, right?
Okay,
Yeah. We were talking about a little bit about starting these communities
right.
and community schools we talk about Costa Rica all the time.
We sure do.
And I want you to give our audience a little bit more insight on what it could look like to one, put children and mothers first, and have community care like that, and starting these sort of, I don't want to call them institutions because I feel like that's so problematic, but starting these sort of community spaces of healing.
Right. I mean, it's all about centering community. And when we think about putting mothers and children first, it's really about centering the needs of mothers and children, not the needs of capitalism or the economy or whoever is trying to profit off of some system. When we think about and it's just simple things too. Like I talk to a lot of parents who are like, culturally for us, being late is normal. Like showing up not on time is normal. But if you go to public school in the United States of America, showing up late means that you could potentially get, in trouble, in legal trouble with the school district for being truant. Like things like that, or for having that be a habitual thing. So things like that seem really little, like being late to school, can actually create serious problems for someone legally. And typically it's people who live in lower income situations or people of color and a variety of folks living in the margins of our communities. So when we really think about who's targeted by policies like that, right? And so that's an example of a policy that does not put mothers and children first. And there's so many different examples of that as well. But I think when we think about creating small communities of learning and engagement and, just spaces where people can feel safe and secure and dignified in what they're doing, I feel like it really is about really not just putting mothers and children first, but making them the leaders of that work, really allowing them to step up and lead that work so that those spaces can be envisioned by the exact people that they're serving. And I think that's something we miss all the time. Like our institutions are not built to do that. They were never envisioned to do that. They were envisioned to weed out whoever was seen as less intelligent or the weaker sort of working class type folk that, was envisioned at the time education was created in this way. So, we really have to think about what's the history of what we're doing and what was it made to do, and how do we change that? How do we envision something different and really dream about something that's bigger and more fulfilling for everyone?
You're so right. And what I heard, something that really, that I want to highlight what you said is women aren't thought to lead that work, or women aren't thought to be able to handle that. And it goes, you can think about that in so many different aspects, right? You can think about in these institutions and even in the home. Like people, especially Black mothers, like people don't even think we're qualified enough to raise our children, to educate our kids, to even give birth, how we want to give birth. Like everything is either centered around some sort of law or some sort of restriction on how women get to exist and show up in spaces. And we have conversations about this often, even the way that women are constantly abused, especially mothers, at the hands of not only society, but by, people that they create children with.
Absolutely.
And how much society doesn't look to protect them. I mean, we see it in the news all the time. Black mom jailed for going to work while she left her children at home, yet we don't provide universal health care.
Right.
Yet this mother probably went through all the avenues they could try to go to get support, and at every turn it was, no, we can't, sorry, can't help you. And so here she is going to work, right, to provide for her children, and now she's a criminal to the system. Now her children are being taken away from her. I mean, at every step of the way, we see this criminalization of children, and especially Black mothers. And so how do you think we could go about, and I don't mean we as mothers, what do you think society needs to start doing to visualize the Black mother at the center of justice?
Well, I think it takes a full spectrum of understanding, right? Like we think about abuse or violence, like we could think about it as state violence, right? We think about Black mothers being sterilized in prisons or chained to their beds while giving birth in a prison, right? Like we think about that, police violence being part of that state violence as well. And intimate violence in the home with partners being abusive to Black women in particular and other women of color, and how those are important intersections because one is modeled from the other. Like we see models of abuse and violence as normalized in our communities, and then we do it in the home, and then there's little, consequence for that as well. And especially when you're a Black or brown or queer person, all of those things make it less likely that you're going to have justice for the kind of violence that you're experiencing, whether state or intimate or otherwise. So I think what it means to really put Black women at the center of that is, again, allowing more opportunity for Black women to call the shots about their lives, about societal pressures and, perceptions of Black women, and to be able to do things like this, right? To tell our own stories, to be storytellers who share the narratives from our perspective, which is constantly not the case. We always hear about violence from the news or from research that isn't done by Black women or people of color in general, right? Like there's all these things that are problematic in finding solutions, and they don't find solutions because we aren't part of the solution at all. We're just the subjects of whatever they're wanting to change. So I think, one of the things that is so important that really doesn't happen enough is really involving Black women in that work, like leading that work, not just inviting them to do it, but following the lead of Black women in finding solutions for community. That's why Healing Justice is so important, right? Being like a Black women-led organization, finding solutions for Black people, that's the kind of revolutionary work we really need.
Thank you. Oh, your words always, you just are so brilliant. And I hope you know that. Like I tell you that all the time, and I feel like you're like, yeah, but you are. And I'm just so grateful to have this friendship with you.
Me too.
I learned from you so much, and I'm so thankful for you coming here and having this conversation. Really quick, because we could have this conversation.
I know.
We have it all the time.
Yes,
for
we do.
many, many hours. But how can people engage with you past watching this episode?
They can follow me on social media. Chiani Dree is usually my @ for everything I'm on. And chianidree.com. I have a website where I list out all the work I've done and services that I provide to help community as well.
Awesome. Well, you heard it here, folks. You can engage with Chiani on her website or her Instagram. And thank you for tuning in to this episode of Voices of Liberation.